I think due to time, look forward to seeing the time and then earlier. We are 7 minutes past what start 5 p.m. So I think we should begin. So my name is So my name is Chris Murimi, the chairperson at Triple University, and are hosting this webinar in partnership with other IEEE chapter. Yeah, so we have the profession, the Communication Society, okay, IEEE Communication Society, Kenya chapter. Yeah, so we look forward to having a great session today. We are privileged to have one of the great volunteers and leaders in IEEE session. So I would like to invite Mojiongi. Maybe you can guide us with your intro before we begin. Hello, Mojiongi. Am I audible from your side?
Yes, I could hear you, Chris.
Hello, Mojiongi. Are you in a position of giving an intro? So I think Muriungi represent the Kenya section young profession.
Hello? Yeah. Hello, Chris.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, I was in another call. Pardon me for that. It's ongoing. Maybe, probably, it will be finishing in the next 2 minutes or so. Maybe I can just mention, you can repeat your question and then I can respond to that. I've just heard the name, so that's why I...
Sorry for that. I wanted you to give your intro before we invite the speaker. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So, I think we have a quorum of 8, and I normally believe it's that's quite enough. We can start, and then probably after 2-3 minutes, people will be flocking in. Another thing is we have a timeline, and also we have a recording. So no worries. Whoever misses, they can always maybe go back and get the intro as until they reach to the point where they are good to proceed. Maybe for the few who may be coming into our webinar today, who are not IEEE members and probably who don't know me, my name is Kitinji Muriungi. I'm currently locally the YP chair, and also I head Photonics Society. Region 8, I step in as the corresponding member in the Action for Industry subcommittee. Maybe why are we here and why is it that Moi is hosting us? So this is a series of discussions that probably will be happening for a couple of weeks, courtesy of the IEEE ArcSite funding that Moi got for the smart kibanda. I'll not use a smart kiosk here. I think all of us understand what a kibanda is, so I will use that. And it happened that I'm the project or team lead for the project from the professional side, and then Chris is leading the student side. So as the lead into the project, I think we decided to to come out of the normal cocoon that we are used to be having, where if we have a project, we start working on the project and then until the end. If we don't have any skill, we'll just proceed and just get through the project. Maybe at some point we mess up things. At some point we are doing things the wrong way, and such kind of mistakes. So through a discussion that we are having with Humphrey Muhindi some times back, and Humphrey suggested, I think Itenji, next time you have a funding or next time you have a project, you need to be doing these kind of sessions, like the training sessions, quote unquote, upskilling the team that is working on that. And I think it was kind of a godsend because immediately we had that discussion with Humphrey. We got the funding, the Hacksite funding, which is $5,000. And the first thing that came into my mind is we need a weekly or maybe within 2 weeks have a session specifically tailor-made for this project. But again, the skill set that you will learn through this, they will also be applicable in your other areas, whether you are a professional or a student. So last week we had project management. This week we have volunteer leadership. And then next week we have an awesome talk again with one of the very long serving treasurer who has served in the Kenya section treasury and also is currently serving in the IEEE Africa Council. So I think you can take the direction we are taking. We started with management. Now we are coming into the real stuff, which is the leadership and volunteer, because this project is being implemented and being led by volunteers. And we need to understand at what point as a leader are you supposed to push someone, and at what point you will push someone and then maybe they break. So that is why we needed that. And we needed to get this kind of lessons from an IEEE volunteer and an IEEE leader, because maybe when we bring someone from outside, they may not understand exactly how IEEE operates. But when we bring someone from the inside who is an excellent leader, who is an excellent volunteer, then they can shed some lights. They can tell us hacks, the do's and don'ts that will work, because the kind of resources we have, the kind of people we have, it's really unique for the IEEE itself. And again, even on the financial side, we are bringing someone from the IEEE because they understand the volunteer space, they understand the finances, they understand the accountability, the responsibilities, among other things. So as we welcome Humphrey, maybe for those ones, for the students from Moi who don't know, Humphrey is the alumni of Moi University School of Engineering. And when I say the alumni, I don't want to use the old boy, the old boys. Someone said when you use the old boys, these are people who didn't do much in school, so they are called old boys. But for those people who have really done an awesome job in their school, they are called alumni. So Humphrey is the alumni of Moi University. Same to me here, although he graduated some times back. Apart from him graduating from Moi, he has really played key role in making the section stand and even making the section reach to the point where it is. We started with him. At the time he was the chair. We grew the section from 0 student branches to now 7 or 8 student branches. Apart from that, he also started pioneered young professionals, in which I'm currently the chair. So you can actually see this is the pioneer of so many things. He pioneered the student branches. He pioneered the section kind of a discussion with young professionals, and right now is the first secretary of the African Council. So if there is nothing else we can learn from this guy, there is quite a lot of things he holds in terms of leadership and in terms of volunteering, and that's why he was the perfect person to address this. Welcome, Humphrey. I hope the introduction is worth your profile. And karibu.
Thank you very much, Githinji for that introduction. I prepared a slide for my introduction, but I think you have done justice. I may just skip it. To begin with, I'd like to appreciate your invitation and also the invitation by Chris, who approached me and also told me about this. So it's always a pleasure for me to share the little knowledge that I have with people who are interested in listening, in hearing, in learning. And I hope that I will make the next 1 hour worth your time for all those who are here. So let me bring up my presentation. During the presentation, I'll disable my video just to ensure that my bandwidth is not affected in any way. So as mentioned, today we're here to talk about volunteering, to talk about leadership and focus on how these can be used when undertaking engineering projects. So I'll briefly talk about volunteering and leadership in general, and a bit about projects. Projects are a wide topic, so I'll just touch a bit and try and focus on how volunteering and leadership can be effectively used when conducting this. So that's a summary of my presentation. And as I mentioned earlier, I had done a brief bio, but Githinji has gone through most of it. But I'll just highlight the areas where he may have left out. So by profession, I'm a telecommunications engineer working with Seacom Kenya Limited, which is an undersea fiber cable provider along the east coast of Africa, from South Africa up to Europe via Marseille. I've been in the telecommunications industry for the last 15 years. So you can calculate when I graduated. And as you said, I'm an electrical and communications engineering graduate from Moi University. I have various Cisco, IT, Agile Project Management, and CISA certifications attained over the course of my professional life. And in terms of affiliations, I'm a graduate engineer with the Engineers Board of Kenya, and also a Class A telecommunications technical personnel with the Communications Authority of Kenya. In addition to this, I'm a member of the Project Management Institute, and also within IEEE, I'm a member of the Communication Society, the Telecommunication and Management Society, that's TEMS, Power and Energy Society, SITE, and also YP. Currently, I'm the secretary, as mentioned, of the Africa Council, and also the founding chair of the Kenya chapter of the Communication Society. In terms of awards, I have been a recipient of the MGA Leadership Award in 2019, and within the section in 2016, 17, and 2017, 18, I was awarded the Outstanding Leadership Award for supporting activities in the section. In 2014, I took a course that is called Volunteer in Leadership Training, and graduated from that. This is one that is done by IEEE. It's at the time it was a 9-month course, although these days it's a 6-month course. And in between 2018 and 2021, I've been a mentor for the students in that volunteer leadership training, that is VLT. What are some of the volunteer activities I've been involved in? The list is a bit long, but I just thought that I will mention these. I will be referencing these at some point in the presentation, But these are some of the things that I've actually done from the time I was in high school up to now in my professional career. So, to the meat, what is volunteering? The definition of volunteering, there are many definitions, but in simple terms, volunteering is just giving your time willingly for the common good and without any financial gain. The key word here is without financial gain. So when someone says, I am volunteering to do something, what are some of the things that they can actually look at doing? Volunteering can be serving on a board or a committee within the community or within an institution. It can be free consultation in your area of expertise. It can be mentorship to students, mentorship to professionals, basically any form of mentorship that you do. It can also be teaching. Some people can actually teach as a volunteer activity, not getting paid for it, but just providing that particular service. You can serve in ad hoc committees. These are committees that come up in a day-to-day life. Sometimes you may be called into a wedding committee. You may be called into a committee to fundraise for a particular cause. Such activities are done without expecting any payment and also contribute towards volunteering. It can be in a charity, it can be in charity, any charitable activity. I had mentioned earlier about, or rather displayed earlier about the activities like Sunday school teaching. It can be something like hospital visit, visiting the aged, visiting the orphans and things like that, giving a time towards that. And volunteering can also be a long-term activity. You can be an advisor for an institution or an event for a particular period of time. This giving your insight, giving your expertise, giving your advice to the teams that organize or run the particular institutions or events. So what are the benefits of volunteering? One, it enables one, volunteering is actually an area of learning, and it enables one to actually find out issues affecting the community. It can be affecting a community, it can be affecting a certain group of people, it can be affecting an individual. But this, by volunteering, you can actually get to find out what is affecting people out there. And it can enable you to get to know, by working with the people who are addressing these issues, it can enable you to get to know the people who are addressing these issues. While doing that, you are actually building a network because you're interacting with these people. You're interacting with organizations that are working in in that particular field around the issue that you are interested in. And most importantly, for those who may be students or just coming out of learning institutions and out there looking for jobs, recruiters also view volunteer experience as an equivalent to formal work experience. So if you have organized some community work in your estate, in your village, in your home area, some charitable activity or such like activities, this can go a long way in displaying or showing your project management experience or your financial management skills if there were some funds that were involved. If you are fundraising for an event, it can show how good you are in or how you participated in such an activity. If you are selling something, that can also be a way in which you can demonstrate your sales knowledge or capabilities, and even leadership or operations in terms of in case you are in that leadership position in that particular volunteer activity. So do not look down upon volunteer experience. It's actually quite beneficial to you at any point in your life. Volunteering is also, a benefit of volunteering is also the fact that when you're volunteering, you have it's actually in a low pressure environment because the expectations on you are not as high as in a work environment. Here you're giving your time free of charge. You're not expecting to be paid, and you're actually working towards achieving or addressing a certain issue, a certain cause that you may be passionate about. So the low pressure environment, the lower pressure actually increases your chances of succeeding in that activity because you're more willing to take risks, you're more willing to develop yourself, you're more willing to grow. And there's more flexibility in actually that assignment because you actually have that freedom of thinking out of the box, trying out things, not worried whether they will fail or not, because you have the chance to go back and do it again and correct that. And it also gives you a chance to take additional responsibilities. By volunteering, you actually put your hand up and say, I can do this or I want to do this. So in a sense, you're actually being allocated or being given an additional responsibility, which you will not have had if you had not volunteered. And you're also able to build new skills and also your confidence as you volunteer. Not all volunteer activities are actually or end up with a positive outcome. There are some people who actually misuse others while using the term volunteering. They tell you they're giving you, there's this common word that was being used at some point by the creatives that people are saying they're giving you exposure. So in the same way, there are people who may misuse volunteers. So it's actually important for you, since you're giving your time, you're giving your resources, your energy, to know where to give your time. So you need to find organizations that have good volunteer programs or strategies. And how do you actually identify these? One is you can find out what are the goals of that volunteer activity. And this goes to any volunteer activity. Before you join and take up something, just try to find out what are the objectives of it. What is the end goal? What do they want to achieve after a certain period of time? So it's important to know what the goals are. It's important to also look at whether the organization or the individual, it may be an individual who is requesting for volunteers, whether they have a plan for the volunteers. This involves training, guidance during the volunteer work, and also management of the whole process, the whole activity that people are volunteering in. A performance review is actually very important because as you go about the volunteer work, as you go about the activity that you're doing, there needs to be reviews at specific points, a continuous review where someone can look at what you're doing and tell you whether you're on the right track, whether you're doing the right thing or not, and correct you or guide you as you go on. So the review is actually quite important. And finally, reward and recognition. It's important to reward and recognize achievements or actions that have been done by volunteers. This motivates them to go on further, and this also boosts their morale to be able to try out and even be more innovative. So if you are in an organization that is undertaking volunteer work, personalized recognition is quite key. Do not do the blanket email or the blanket message to the WhatsApp group and say, hey guys, we are happy about what you have done. But try, even if you're sending a certificate to someone, tell them what they have done, what you appreciate them doing. If someone built your website, tell them we appreciate you for building the website and or manage the social media account. Or if someone actually put up a wall, we appreciate that you helped us to put up this wall. The personalized recognition brings about the sense of appreciation that a volunteer feels that this person actually knows what I did and really appreciates what I did, as opposed to the blanket or the generic message of recognition. Also, the recognition has to be timely and specific. So timely in the sense that if an activity has been concluded today or in the past week, let that recognition or the mention come in as soon as possible before it appears as an afterthought by the person who is offering that. And specific, I have mentioned about being specific. So where can you identify these programs, strategies, these organizations and all? You can check online. Most companies these days put volunteer opportunities on their websites or on their social media pages. LinkedIn is a good site to actually go in and look at this. If you have a particular cause that you like, you can follow that cause. If you are in youth or gender issues and you feel that that is the cause that you like to volunteer in, you can try and follow those particular causes, organizations who are championing those particular causes, and that will enable you know about the opportunities that are actually coming up, and also enable you to vet and see whether it's something that you would like to participate in. Also, you can attend events that are related to the cause you like. If you like activities that are related to technology, then attend tech events that are organized in the particular field that you like. There, you're most likely going to meet people who have a similar interest, and you may actually hear about opportunities that may come up for you to be able to volunteer. So as you go into volunteering, what really motivates volunteers? We mentioned as we started in the definition that it is without financial gain. So what motivates volunteers? Someone who has actually agreed to give his time is a non-material, the non-material things. These are the autonomy, the ability to have your own self-direction. Here you can look at what you want to do and focus it, come up with ways in which you can be able to do. You're also able to control your own work. Most of the time during volunteer work, you are given a task, and you're expected to go and work and be able to finish that task and achieve the result that has been set out. So here you're able to control how you will do it, how much time you will take based on the deliverables that you have been given, and you have that freedom to actually control how you're going to do it. And there's also a sense of achievement once you have done that task and completed it. There's also a sense of contributing directly to the progress of something. If it's a cause that is affecting a community and you contributed towards solving a problem in the community, that sense of contributing actually brings about some sort of gratification to someone who is a volunteer. Recognition, as I mentioned, is important, and also personal and professional growth. By volunteering and doing something, you are actually developing yourself in that field, in the area that you have volunteered in, whether it is your professional in your professional area or something that is outside your professional area but in your personal space. So these are some of the things that actually motivate volunteers. And as someone who is looking for volunteers or working with volunteers, always look out for these to be able to ensure that you keep the volunteers who come up. So IEEE, I'll talk about IEEE since we are IEEE, most of us, I believe, if not all. So IEEE has quite a large number of volunteering opportunities. IEEE as an organization itself is an organization that is purely led by volunteers. We have around 400,000 members, and all out of these, about 90, we can say 98% are actually volunteers, with the quite a minor number being staff members. So IEEE, what are the typical volunteering opportunities within IEEE that you can engage in? as a member. And this does not discriminate against the level of membership, whether you're a student or a professional member. One, you can participate in projects at the local level, and these are not limited to planning meetings and activities. The people who plan this session are actually volunteering to do that. In doing that, mentoring students. So there are very many organizations that do the mentoring, but you can do it as an individual. And IEEE actually has a mentorship program that is encourages members, especially higher grade members, that is professional members and above, to be able to come in and mentor students or even other younger professional members. So these are opportunities that are actually there and you can take part in it. Evaluating award candidates. We have IEEE awards, various awards within IEEE from the section level up to the global level. So locally you can volunteer to be part of the awards and recognition committee and say, fine, I will be part of it and we will look at who has done well in the section and reward them. That's volunteering. Chairing a specific committee. We have a number of committees within the section. Affinity groups, we have society chapters, we have ad hoc committees like industry, like membership development, like publicity, student activities, and all that. So you can volunteer by actually chairing this committee. But let me not limit it to chairing, but you can volunteer by being a leader in these committees, because not everyone can be a chair, but you can be something within that committee, lead a certain activity, lead a certain section of that committee. Editing newsletters, these are items that are there, which we do, posts on the website, posts on the social media. That's actually part of volunteer work. And then I mentioned earlier about creating and maintaining a website. That's also something that you can undertake within a section. If you look at it globally, how can you volunteer within IEEE? One, you can hold an official position at various levels. This IEEE is organized in the hierarchy is that there is a section, then there's a region, then we have the global organization. So within these different tiers, we also have the Africa Council. We even have the societies and the chapters. Within any of these organizational units, you can actually volunteer your time and participate by being a member, being a leader in those specific organization. You can also look at what your specific organizational unit offers the members. As the young professionals, they decided and saw that they need people to come up and talk about project management. So that was a need that they saw we can offer their members, and they came up and organized this session. So that's a way in which you can contribute, and it gets an impact on those who are going to undertake those projects or whatever talk that was organized by them. Then you can also network and engage with members, and also take part in determining the future direction of IEEE. IEEE actually is a very interesting organization. It is quite big, but any volunteer who comes up, more often than not, as long as you put your hand up, you will be accepted to volunteer in any specific organization or any committee that is there within IEEE, even a global committee. So do not fear to take part in any of these or volunteering to get involved in this. So this is a long page with some of those examples of where you can volunteer. This is for those who are active members, looking at the young professionals, women in engineering, humanitarian opportunities. I think that one is important because right now, the Humanitarian Activities Committee actually has a lot of money. And they're looking at providing this money to people who can come up with projects that can be able to help the community around them. As we started on the introduction, the chair mentioned that they were awarded some funds to conduct a project, and as part of the preparation for that project, they're doing these trainings using those funds. So these are opportunities that are there, volunteering within the humanitarian activities, the women in engineering, the young professionals, the various societies. There are, I think, 42 societies within societies and councils within IEEE. Any of those can be an opportunity for you to volunteer. How can you get to know about these opportunities? There are various sites that IEEE actually has. There's a platform called Collaboratech, which unfortunately has not been very popular, but is a very rich resource because it has so many people organized in communities, organized in groups, and you can easily go in and search for what you want and join that particular cause or join that particular group and participate in that. And this does not limit you if you're not an IEEE member. You can actually go in and participate. So that's a platform that is there. You can also check in the member directory. IEEE has a member directory. If you're looking for someone, let's say you are in Kenya and you don't know who to contact, and you probably want to see who the Kenya section chair is, you can go to the member directory and actually search, and it will bring up that person, and you can contact them and find out about the opportunities that are there. In case you can't find something that you're interested in, what can you do? You can actually decide to start the project or a program yourself. As I mentioned in my introduction, we at some point in I believe it was 2013, 2014, thereabout, we saw that there was no young professionals group in Kenya. At that time, it was called Gold, graduate of the last decade, because it was for members who have been who have graduated in the last 10 years. And I was approached, and we actually raised a petition and were able to form that, similar to the site group, similar to the other societies that were there. So we saw that these were not there within the local setting and decided to go out and actually form them. So that's another way in which you can volunteer. In case you find something that is not there and you're passionate in, you can always decide to start it on your own. Do not fear. There's always support for you to be able to do that. Then in terms of the resources, the IEEE resources, there is a member and geographic activities. MGA has so many volunteer tools. If you go to the site, you'll see so many volunteer tools that you can use and resources, including trainings, recorded sessions, which are categorized into different aspects of leadership, in different aspects of volunteering. Technical activities, these are the societies. They also have organized their resources related to each society, so you can go in and check that out. IEEE actually has a Center for Leadership and Excellence, which is something that each and every person at one point or another should go in and check out, because it gives you, you can actually use it. I actually use it for my personal development, and also for some of the material that is in there. I actually use it, apply it at my workplace. So it's something that you can actually check out and use. And in addition to that, there are also other volunteer resources that are there. So that was all on the volunteering. The next part I'll talk about briefly is leadership. Volunteering is about giving your time. When you are in a volunteer group or in a community or in a society, there has to be someone who leads that particular group. And that's where the leadership comes in. What are the qualities of a good leader? These are some of them. These are not all, but some of the important ones that will really distinguish you between from being a good and a bad leader. The first and the most important thing is integrity. To be a leader, you have to have integrity. This is everywhere in life, whether it's in your home, whether it's at your workplace, whether it's in a volunteer community. Being a leader requires someone who has integrity. being a leader also requires someone who is honest. Being honest makes people trust you and also enhances your credibility. People believe what you tell them. They don't doubt you because they know that you're an honest person. You also need compassion. You need to be empathetic when you're leading a group, especially volunteers. You need to understand what these people may be feeling, or need to understand what they may be going through, and be empathetic to those particular situations at that time. Then it also requires confidence. This is confidence in yourself, plus your ability to lead. A leader who exudes confidence inspires the team that is under them or working with them, because they look at you and they believe that you can actually take them to where they want to be or where you want to go. Then you also need to be flexible. Listen to what it will take to get a consensus between all parties. It may not be like that all the time. At some point, you need to be firm and take a decision, but most of the time, listen to what the people are saying and try to build consensus within them, especially if it's a volunteer activity. Then lastly, a leader needs to be visible. You cannot be a leader if you are sitting at the back, or you're at the back of the group, or in the middle of the crowd. A leader needs to be visible. A leader needs to stand out. And I think I'll concentrate on this for the next few slides, just to bring out what I mean by visibility. So first, in terms of leadership, the times are changing, and leadership is not as it was traditionally. We are now going into a period where the future of work is going to be working remotely, telecommuting. People are working from home. There are mobile offices and things like that. So as a leader, how do you adapt to this? Because you cannot remain in the past while people are moving to the future. So in terms of remote work, people have more control over how, over when, and where to work. Those who have been working from home can now associate with this, because right now, previously you had to maybe report to the office at 8 o'clock and work up to 5 o'clock and leave. But right now you can actually wake up at 7 o'clock and decide to start work then, and work until 3, 4 o'clock, and decide that you're actually stopping at that time. Okay, that is if your employer allows. You can agree to even start later and maybe coming at 9 and work from 9 or something like that. You can decide to work from a Java shop, a coffee shop. You can decide to work from your balcony. You can decide to work from your home office. There's that flexibility. There's more control over where people are working. That's a good of it, but there's also another aspect of being out of touch with your colleagues, being out of touch with the people who are in charge, your leaders, and also being out of touch with the end users, the customers, if it's a company, if it's a volunteer group. I know most of us have been doing virtual events like this one right now. We are not having that physical in-person interaction. So remote working also brings about that. So as a leader, you need to be someone who can recognize this and be able to put your volunteers, the people who you're working with, put the people who are working under you together and motivate them so that they can still be able to deliver what you expect. And to bridge this gap, you need to do something that is impactful so that people can realize, and you also need to be visible to stand out. There's a saying that to stand out, you need to be outstanding. So a leader needs to be visible. That's the only way in which people can recognize you, especially in this new way of working, and be able to follow you or to do as you direct. In addition to this, the leader also needs to know the audience or the target. yes, you want to be visible as a leader, but who are you targeting? Who are these people that you want to know that you are the leader? So who is the target? So you need to know that. You also need to look at whose recognition you're looking for. Is it your colleagues? Do you want to know your colleagues to know that this is the leader? Is it your peers? Is it your seniors? Is it people in the industry that you need to recognize that you are the leader of a particular cause, of a particular group, or of a particular activity? You also need to look at what outcome you want as a leader and raise your profile so that you can be able to reach, to be there, or to associate, or people to associate you with that particular outcome. Now, once you know all this, you need a platform. This is a way in which you can share your message, you can distribute, and get that recognition and visibility from the audience you want. Right now, we are working on, we are using WebEx. This is the platform that we have chosen to use to share this information. But it can be anything. You can decide that you want to do podcasts, you want to do social media posts. Maybe you want to run a blog, or you want to do live recordings and share these on LinkedIn, or you want to just share posts, discussion items in a specific group. So you need to choose, you need to look at the target that you have. Where are they found? Where are they most likely to consume that message that you're sending, and actually use that to distribute and share the information that you have. What are some of the best practices in leadership visibility? So one thing we don't need to do is reinvent the wheel. There are people who have done it, been there, done that. So the easiest thing to do, this is not the manual, but the easiest thing to do is look at who is 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. If it's in your career or in a volunteer group or somewhere where you want to associate with, these can be people who are maybe up to 5 years ahead of you. Look at where they are, look at what they did to get there, and look at how they actually got there, and try to do rather learn from them, to emulate them and see what is this that made them gain that visibility. What is this that they did so well that made them be visible, be the go-to person who is outside there. Being a leader, you actually need to be the go-to person. Whenever people have a problem, they need to think about you first. Like, I need this. Who can we talk to? Talk to Humphrey, or talk to so-and-so. That's the kind of visibility you need to create as a leader, so that people can actually look at it. And you can learn from people who have been there, see what they have done, and try to look at how you can actually not copy, but emulate some of those things that they did. And this can be someone in your class, in your company, in the field that you are in, or even a volunteer group, as I mentioned earlier. Then as you work towards being visible, you need to know how to project your leadership. People need to feel you as a leader. People need to know that you are the leader and not just someone else within the group. So they always say teamwork is great, but leaders stand out from the team. You can have a team of 10 people and all of you are there sitting down, but the leader needs to be the person who stands out. The person who, when a visitor comes into that room, he will look at the 10 of you and decide that one must be the leader and go and start talking to you. So you need to create that sense of visibility, and you need to create that sense of authority that people can actually see in you. And it's very simple in the sense that all this comes from just volunteering to do things here and there. You can just decide you want to present a speech. When you present a speech, people see you as an authority in that particular field. Right now, I'm talking to you about volunteering and leadership, and I think from the introduction I saw and the post that was sent via WhatsApp, you are saying this is the main person you need to talk to with regards to volunteering, with regards to leadership and all that. You see, it creates that sense of authority that you have. You may not have it, but the fact that you actually stood out and came up and did it, it gives you that sense of authority. And when you're doing it, it actually builds your confidence. We talked about it at the beginning, that it builds your confidence and you actually grow as you continue doing it. Practice makes perfect. So you can decide you want to present a speech or a talk. You know, when you're on a stage, you actually stand alone. It's something they call the spotlight effect. Like if it's an evening event and it's dark and there's only one light that is focusing on the speaker, it will be on you. So everyone else is not seen, but it's just you. So as a leader, there's that spotlight effect when you get up, stand on the stage, take up a responsibility and say, I will be the one to champion this. You're also seen as a leader, an expert, and an authority in that particular field. Then you can actually, I mentioned this, you can volunteer to speak or present. It can be in a team, it can be in your class, it can be in an institution, your company, or it can even be in the industry, outside your company, in the industry. You can present something to the people in your industry. So that projects you. People will always look at you and talk about you. Most important thing is be real. Authenticity. This is very key. Share the best of your stories, your insights, your failures, your successes, but please don't fake it. Okay, there's a saying, you can fake it till you make it, but if you want to be a leader, just be real. And what is your story, you can share that. What is not your story, you can actually share it, but attribute it or give credit to whoever that story belongs to. Do not take it and formulate it to be your own story. So be real, and also do not fear taking risks. Public speaking is one of the hardest things that for people. I remember the first time I did it, I was in high school, and it was one of these poems that we were doing. It was an inter-house competition. It was a 6-verse poem, but I ended up forgetting a whole verse because I had freaked out. So I actually feared. It was the first time I'm doing this thing, and all these people are sitting there. I'm on top of the stage looking at them. I forgot one whole verse, but I just continued and finished and assumed that that was the whole thing. Later on, people came and told me, "Hey, you guy, you forgot one verse, but at least finished." So that confidence, that avoiding that, overcoming that fear is what is important as a leader. Speak in public. Let people hear what you think, what you say. Let people know your stand regarding issues, regarding specific items, and then they will know who to associate, where to associate you. Leaders actually take risks. Sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not, but at least you need to take that risk. Then by putting yourself up, you probably, when speaking in public especially, what you should think about is you probably know more about that topic than everyone else, or almost everyone else in that particular group, in that particular audience. So that should give you the confidence to actually go about it without any fear. So whenever you come up and do something, or take up that responsibility, take up that chance, just know that you probably know more about it than most of the other people. So have that confidence, go about it. Then the audience is actually admiring your courage. Many people cannot stand up to talk. Many people cannot stand up to lead. Many people cannot stand up to say, I want to champion this cause. So whenever they see you there, they actually admire. They might not tell you, but they actually admire the courage that you have. They say, I wish I was like that guy. I wish I could actually say I can do it. While inside they may know that they can do it, but they fear taking that risk. So a good leader is willing to take that risk. And also lastly, people have their own, if it's a conference or an event, there are probably other people thinking about their own speeches, thinking about what they're going to say, how it's going to be taken. So they're worrying, many others are worrying about work. Maybe there's a deadline they have missed, their family or other leisure activities, anything that is in their mind. So they may not even be thinking about you in the sense that looking at you and wondering if you are afraid or not of speaking in public or doing something. So don't look at it as how are people looking at me, but just assume that they have their own problems or their own things that they're thinking about. So you go about whatever you're doing and do it to your best. So I'll quickly go through the projects. So an engineering project is something that includes engineering elements. That's technical hardware components, software elements, data management requirements. Basically, a project that involves technology and the use of technology. So new technologies have come up that have enhanced the capabilities of most of the things that are happening or most of the resources that you use. However, the new technologies also bring in unique risks. These are things that were never there with the traditional project management in the project management space. So this really makes managing engineering projects exciting because you never know what will happen next when you're doing something, when something new has just been come and you're the guinea pig trying it out. So look at engineering projects as something exciting, something that is challenging, and always go about it with a sense of excitement towards it. How can you effectively manage projects? This is a general project management. So one, you need to plan. You need to know the expectations and come up with the specifics. You need to have the project team set up. These are the right people, both in skill and attitude. You may need professionals in that to address that particular issue, but also you need people with the right attitude or people with an attitude, people who want to help. He may not be skilled in that particular area, but he has the attitude, he wants to help, he's passionate about that cause. So that's a good person to have in your team. Then as a leader, you need to have the right attitude. You need to know how to communicate. You need to know how to manage people. This I'm looking at specifically at projects where you're managing volunteers. Then there's stakeholder engagement. This is basically communicating your milestones during the project. You need to be able to engage the stakeholders. Stakeholders, this includes the project team, the sponsors that you have, and maybe the community, the end users of that particular activity or that project that you guys are working on. So you need to communicate them. If it's a certain stage, you have achieved something, make sure they know so that they are actually part of the project in a way. And this can be through meetings or maybe emails, posts that you send. These can always be ways of communicating. And with your team, always celebrate the milestones with them. If you are building a road and today you dug up I don't know, let me just use technology. If you're building a software and perhaps you came up with a software requirement document, at the end of it, you can stop there and say, fine, guys, we have the software requirements and let's celebrate this. And when you go to the next step, maybe you're developing something and it's a fast part of that particular software. At the end of it, celebrate. This gives people a sense of appreciation in what they have done and gives them the morale to actually go out and work on the next stage passionately. Then use technology. There are so many project management and collaboration software tools in the market these days. Some are free, some are paid, but you can look and see based on the budget that you have and the requirements that you have, you can try and see which one helps you to actually work better as a team. Then for projects which are big, large in size, try to break them down into smaller pieces, which can be simple, manageable, and easy to track. This helps also to motivate your volunteers. If you have a project that's 2 years and you're working with a team and it's in one piece, Imagine coming in and being told now we have 1 year, 12 months remaining to finish this project. Some people might actually give up on the way. But if you break it down to maybe 2, 3 month pieces, people can actually be motivated because they're seeing the end in sight. So try and do that. And then also have contingency plans. You need to look at the project and identify what are the risky activities in this project. Once you identify the risky activities, always have multiple options. If plan A fails, or if the way option 1 of addressing this issue doesn't work, what is option 2? And if option 2 doesn't work, what is option 3? You can have as many as possible so that whenever you hit a roadblock, you can always move in to the next one and see how you can adapt to it. So I'll rush through this. Project management has quite a number of methodologies, but the major ones are the Agile and the Waterfall. Waterfall is a traditional methodology of project management. Agile is a new way in which organizations and project managers are working these days. So in Agile project management, you basically are looking at a project in terms of continuous improvement and iteration at every stage. You're working to see and evaluating the work that is going on at each stage. While in Waterfall, which is a traditional one, it's basically a linear model in which once you start a project, you divide it into phases, and one phase has to end before you look at the other and continue to it. So this is a diagrammatic representation of that. Basically, if you look on the right, you have the Agile where it's sort of continuously going round. You are planning, designing, developing, testing, reiterating. Agile is mainly used for software development, but organizations are actually taking up this as a methodology. I know Safaricom actually right now they're looking at an agile way of work, which they're looking at continuous improvement and stuff like that. So this can be adapted in any form of project. The waterfall method is one where one phase happens before the other, and you go until the end. So it's a linear way, and it needs prior planning. Agile, it's actually, you can work in teams and have different teams taking up different activities within the project. But with the waterfall method, you need to sit down. It needs a project manager who is on top of things throughout the whole project, and he needs to lay out the plan. This is the plan. The plan needs to be set and almost cast in stone at the beginning of the project. And this is the plan that will be followed up to the end. But with Agile, here you have teams which are looking at it continuously where we can improve. It's actually flexible in terms of changing the features, changing the scope a bit so that it can suit the work at the project at that particular time. So I won't go through these. I've already mentioned them, but these are some of the differences between waterfall and agile, where agile is continuous improvement organized into sprints, while waterfall is in phases. And agile helps to manage and complete many small projects, while waterfall is mainly help to complete one single project. So lastly, what are the considerations that you should look at in engineering projects? So they're the technology that you use. These are the tools, these are the systems, the IT systems. What will you use? What tool do I want to use? What IT systems, software do I want to use? How will these tools be maintained? How are they supported? Do they have support contracts, maintenance contracts, and things like that? If I encounter a problem with it, can I get help? Or will I be stuck? So those are some of the considerations. There's a lot of data that is used these days. So we need to look at data security. We need to look at data privacy. These are very critical components. We need to make sure the data that we collect when we are in the field doing our projects is actually secured, is kept safely. And we also need to ensure that the data that we have is not shared for malicious use outside. That's a privacy bit. There are policies around this which governments, authorities have set out. For example, the GDPR, the encryption requirements, and all that stuff. So you need to look at that as you're managing your project, how you manage data. There's also the management of suppliers or providers. When you're choosing them, you need to know if you're going to work with partners, what are their capabilities? Do they have references? How flexible are they? Are they people who, when you tell them you want to work over the weekend, they will say, fine, let's go do it? Or are they the people who will tell you we only work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5? So depending on the kind of project, you need to look at that, and also willingness to share risk. Yeah, willingness to share risk. This is a person who can come. If you're stuck, they can tell you, fine, let's try this. And if it doesn't work, I agree that I will not blame you, or I will not charge you, or I will not do this for you. So that kind of willingness, there are people who work with you through the project. They can really help. Then you also need to weigh whether to automate or to go with manual processes. Sometimes automation may increase complexity, and you may require to go the manual way so that you reduce the complexity, maybe errors or the time taken, also save some costs when you're handling a project. But there are times, especially when working with larger projects, where you may want to automate so that you can be able to achieve more complex deliveries, maybe accuracy. If accuracy is important, monitoring, we want to have a way of monitoring, and also looking at the long term, saving costs in that particular project. Instead of employing more people to do things manually, maybe you can automate, and in the long term, you'll be able to save. So these are some of the considerations that someone who is leading a project and leading people in a particular project can actually look at that. So we have looked at volunteering, we have looked at leadership, we have looked at engineering projects. So how are these all interconnected? We are all, within IEEE, we are all volunteering, and there are some projects that may come up. These may be activities like organizing conferences, this can be activities like organizing meetings, like the HSC funded project that Moi University has at this time. So how do you, as a leader of that particular project, work with different volunteers? So we need to look at the volunteering, what we have gone through about volunteering, how the leader can actually come up, and also how they can manage these projects within the specific considerations that have been set. So with that, I say thank you, and that's my contact, email address, LinkedIn profile, mobile number, in case there's anything that you may feel that you need to talk to me about, please feel free. And question and answer time. Thank you. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Humphrey. That was a very nice presentation. I really appreciate. At some point I did drop, but I have been able to capture the bigger part of that. That was very detailed and nice for us. So maybe anyone on the floor who would like to ask a question on that, feel free to unmute and show your question or put up your question. Feel free.
Silence means that either people did not understand or it was very clear.
Humphrey, maybe I can ask a question on behalf of the team that I'm working with. There is normally this phrase that you will hear so many people say, leaders are born, leaders are grown, some leaders will develop, leadership skills are developed. And in so many cases, we normally see people with great potential, but we believe in them, we believe they are great leaders, but to them, they believe they can't really do it. So maybe from your personal experience, can you comment about that? Are leader born, and now that we are referring to you as the leader in this case, were you born a leader? Did you actually develop the skills? How can you comment about that?
Well, I think it's more exposure and also personal development. Exposure meaning that were you given these opportunities to actually lead? Like when you're in school, are you given an opportunity to become a prefect or a team captain, or are you given an opportunity to maybe raise the flag or something like that? Something that will give you the ability, that exposure, that you have been given the opportunity to actually do something. Once you do it, you actually realize that you have the potential to actually go ahead and do more regarding that. So one, I feel it's the exposure, and two, it's also personal development. Once you get that opportunity, how you take it yourself and work with it. So there are people who can be given the opportunity, but they go through it and do it, and they don't like what they're doing. But if you like what you did, or even if you didn't like, but you see an area that you can improve on, and you go about and work towards improving it, then you can definitely get better and better. And the more you put yourself out, talked about volunteering, the more you volunteer, the more people see you, and the more they give you those opportunities and those leadership opportunities. Most of the opportunities that I've actually received have been because I've put myself out. And because you do one thing, then it leads to another. You decide today you want to volunteer to sing in the choir. And then the next day they say, we need someone to maybe read a poem. And they think, that guy sang in the choir, so most likely he can also read a poem. You go ahead and read a poem. Then the next day they discover, hey, we need someone who can do something. They say, that guy, I think, can do everything. So let's ask him and see. And if you are willing, you can actually volunteer. Then while doing, initially you start by volunteering. As you volunteer, then people see you, how you do things, and they actually start giving you responsibilities. Like now, from singing in the choir, they'll tell you, hey, can you organize this small group and teach them how to sing this song? So that way you have already you have graduated from being a volunteer to a leader. If you are in a team, maybe you put yourself up and say, I want to join the soccer team. Then you play and you actually discover that you're good. People say, okay, now can you lead this team? Can you be the captain or the vice captain or whichever position there may be? So that in that way, one, you need to start by being exposed to the opportunity. Once you're exposed to the opportunity, take that opportunity and actually do it to your best. While doing it to your best, always be on the lookout to see what else you can do. One thing that I normally do is I try to look for something different every year that I can do, so that you also break that monotony. So if this year I've volunteered in maybe doing an activity, organizing a meeting, next year I'll say maybe I want to organize a conference. The other year I may say perhaps I want to maybe form a certain group, and we see how we can go about it. So always try to see what else you can do, something different. And it doesn't have to be all the time. It can be once a year. It can be once every 6 months, depending on how frequently you or how much time you have to volunteer. Volunteering is also a time consuming activity because it's an activity you do outside your normal work or school schedule. So you can spare a little time and say, this is what I want to do with that spare time, and actually go about and do it. You need to have a plan in a way of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, what are the causes that you like. And then once you go towards those causes, you'll interact with people and people will recognize you and they'll actually give you that leadership opportunity. So that's my view. Whether people are born in leadership, that's debatable. I don't know how that happens. Can you see a baby and know that this will become a leader? Maybe if they cry loudest, or I don't know. But I believe it's something that we develop over time. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask a question. How do you, as a leader, deal with, and now that most people are volunteering, how do you deal with people who are not team members, who are not very resourceful? There is that one person in a team who will never show up in a meeting, uh, gives no effort, but at the end last, you are volunteers. So, like, how do you deal with that as a person, as a leader?
Well, that takes you back to find out, sorry, that takes you back to the slide where I talked about what motivates people. You need to know what motivated that person to actually come. By virtue of them actually agreeing to come, there's something that made them come. So you need to find out what it is that motivated that person to come, or those people to come, and then look at the overall structure of that volunteer team. Is it only this person who is not playing ball, or is it more than one person? If it's more than one person, then you need to look at maybe are some of the goals that you set achievable according to them? Are some of the tools that you are using workable according to them? It's basically a matter of being, that's why I talked about communication and people management. You need to know how to manage people, talk to people. Volunteers are there because of a passion they have, of a cause they think they can achieve or address, but not because of the financial gain. Most of the time, there are some who may join because they think there is some money to be made, but when they realize there's no money to be made, or things like that, or benefits, then they will fall off. But you need to talk to them and basically find out what is it that is causing these people not to be motivated. And it's actually not a one-day thing that you may do just once and then you say you have solved it. It's something that you may actually have to walk through it for some time, while monitoring to see whether whatever you are doing is actually effective or not, with regards to these volunteers. So communication is key, and knowing how to manage them, knowing what is affecting them. It may be something that is affecting them from home, and yet here you are asking them to do something for you. So they don't see the benefit. They have bigger things that they're thinking about. So try to see how you can actually find out why it is that they are not. And more often than not, they'll tell you. They'll come out clearly and tell you, I'm not happy with so and so. I'm not happy with a certain activity. I'm not happy with a certain way of working. And then you can be able to try and see if it's something that can be, if it's something that is affecting everyone generally, if it's something that can be changed. If it's only that particular person, then look at what can I do to probably bring this person to accept or to work with it or to adapt to that particular way of working. I hope I've answered your question, Chris.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, any question from the floor?
Sorry. Maybe be more of a clarification. So, what would you be an advice to maybe a team that wants to work in a hybrid way, use both waterfall and agile? And do you think would be the best way or tool to assess the productivity of such a team?
Okay, so in terms of way of working, it really depends on the project and the people. It's not cast in stone that you have to use this particular way or that particular way. It depends on the project and how you want to address it. If you have a larger team, it may be wise to break it down into smaller teams so that those smaller teams are addressing specific activities, as opposed to having 20, 10, 15 people addressing one thing. But if your project has a small team, then you can try and see if going the traditional way will actually work with you. The most important thing is looking at the deliverables of the project. What are the deliverables? There is a person who is the project sponsor, the person who has given you that project to do. Whether it's volunteer work within IEEE, it's IEEE, whether it's a paid thing, a project that people have come up, there's a sponsor that has given their money or their resources to enable you to actually go about that particular project. So you need to look at what are their deliverables, what do they want to achieve, and in how long. So depending on that, you can actually come in and say, fine, this project, let's handle it this way. The agile way is mostly looking at end user satisfaction. You're looking at the end user and whether they're satisfied or not. While the waterfall, you're actually looking at having that project delivered. So with agile, you're looking at, is this person happy, the end user? If not, what can we do to make them happy? What can we change? And then you change it and try and rework it. But with waterfall, you're working at, you're looking at the project. I need to deliver a road here, so I don't care whether this road, these people who use this road will be inconvenienced. My deliverable is put a road within 1 year. So I go in, I sit down, and we work on it. As long as it's within the scope, within the design and all that, my end goal is that project has to be delivered. And we cannot change the scope within the project. But Agile allows you to, at one point or another, change some features here and there. So depending on the type of project and the deliverable, you can actually look at it and see how you want to work on it. And you can actually break down specific parts and say, maybe this part we can do it in an agile way and work on it. But more often than not, if you are working with one sort of methodology, you will stick to that from beginning to the end without having to change. Because the moment you go in and change, like if it's waterfall the traditional way, and you start putting in some agile, some changes here and there, it will affect the other deliverable, there's in project management, they call it what? The iron triangle, where you have the scope, the cost, and the time. These are the three components of a project. If you change the scope of a project, it will affect the cost because you may be introducing new things, and you may change the time because it will mean you have to do it in a longer period of time, take more time. So you have to be very careful when doing that, especially if you have chosen to use the waterfall method. There, normally the scope is fixed, so you can only go that way. You cannot change things in the middle of it. But in an agile way, the scope, the features of that project can change in the middle of the project. So it's hard to actually mix the two. But it also depends, what you choose depends on the kind of project and the deliverable and what the project sponsor wants. I hope I've answered you, Ben.
That's okay.
So maybe Humphrey, this is just a follow-up question on what Ben was asking, and I really love the kind of thinking that Ben you're having. Remember this kind of a project. Maybe just to mention, it has a scope. There is a smart kibanda which needs to be delivered now. If whatever needs to be done, it's within that scope, and then the time here is 6 months. At the moment, that is the defined time, and definitely there could be no any other changes unless closer to that, maybe the team feels that they're not able to do delivery and the updates and the reports have been done. Maybe that can be considered. And also there is a budget, a fixed budget for this. Now, not unless we have partners, that's when maybe now the budget can be maybe extended. a bit, but now depending on the partners. So as maybe we put all this into context, maybe Humphrey, I'd like you to make a comment now in terms of this specific project, because we already have some defined parameters that we are working with, and we are not just working on an open-ended kind of a timeline or an open-ended kind of a research project that can take infinite time or maybe infinite kind of a budget. Yeah, back to you, Humphrey.
Okay, and sorry for the background noise. So in terms of the project, what are the deliverables for this smart Kibanda project? What are the IEEE HSE team expecting from the Moi University student branch?
So maybe Ben, you can respond into that. Because the question you asked has a lot to do with the follow-up question that I've asked. Ben? Or maybe Chris?
Chris can answer better. Chris?
Okay, okay. I think I can just respond to this because I can see Chris is not able to do the response. So basically, from the initial proposal, there is the structure, which is metallic in nature, powered by solar. That is the first thing. Second, it's able to do temperature controls in terms of the smartness, quote unquote, and also be able to accommodate refrigeration, among other stuff. So if the Kibanda is supposed to be used in fruits vending or maybe vegetables and all that, the whole idea here is to make sure there is no loss. The loss is minimal among other factors. Back to you, Humphrey.
Okay, thank you. So the way I look at it is that the agile way might work best for this particular project, in a sense that you have different components. You have the structure, you have the solar part, you have the temperature control part, you have the quality assurance bit. So you can have smaller teams handling these as small projects, probably doing them at the same time, or if there's a dependency maybe on a certain item from a certain result or output from the other part, although I don't see that. That can be a better way of managing this particular one, because you can have more people come in smaller groups, actually doing specific components, and they can be focused on that, of course, having the overall picture in mind, and then working towards delivering this. Because you've talked about the fixed budget, and you've talked about the fixed timeline, sort of, which is 6 months and some amount that you have. So looking at it, you can play around with the features, test them, come back and look at them if they work to your specifications, or go back and redesign in a way. So I believe for this particular one, it will be easier to work with a sort of an agile approach as opposed to the waterfall. Waterfall will still work, but you may find that you have people who are idle in the team waiting for something to happen so that they can come in. But with the agile way, you can have more teams participating and actually working in parallel towards achieving your deliverables. I hope I was clear with the noise.
Yes, Humphrey. Yeah, it's very clear. Maybe we can give a chance to the rest of the team to respond to this. I can see we have Dr. Mary Hauna. Maybe you can make a comment. I also have a friend of mine that I invited, a colleague, that I would really also love. Maybe you share a comment, but maybe you can go to Cliff first. Cliff, you addressed your hand. can go to Cliff first, and then you can come back to the others. As I don't know if Chris, you are back.
Yes, sorry for that. My network.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You can take over. We can have Cliff make a comment.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Hello?
hello, Chris. You are not
Hello?
here.
Can you hear me?
Right now, fine.
Yes, it's much clearer now. Go ahead, Cliff.
Hello?
Hello. Chris, we cannot get what you are trying to put on the table. I see your mic is unmute, but audible.
Maybe he can chat and chat his question, send his question via chat, and we can be able, or his comment via chat, and he can be able to respond.
Yeah. So, Chief, please drop your question on the chat.
Maybe as he types that, just a mention to Ben and the Moi University team is that IEEE, the resources I mentioned about volunteer management, also there are quite a number of items that look at, that can look at sort of projects and how projects are handled, presentations, the documents. So if you can explore the CLE and the various volunteer sites on the MGA site and IEEE site, you can actually get some very important material and even templates that you can use to help you during your project.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that insight.
Maybe ask Chief to chat. Can welcome Mary Auna input on this. Okay, so Muriungi, you said you and a colleague you wanted to invite. Maybe you can do that.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Probably can just do Moses Kagose. Can you hear me? It seems like everybody we're mentioning is kind of off grid. Huh? Moses, are you there? Hello. Okay, maybe Chris, you can take over, and if we don't have any other question, maybe you can do the wrap up, because I can see Dr. Mary Auna is not responding. Moses, yes, Moses, I can see your mic is on, and sorry for the background noise.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, kindly proceed.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much for everything. I just have a comment, not anything like a question or anything, but just a comment of the observations that were made through the presentation and everything that we're going through for the past 1 hour. I was in a call for like 10 minutes ago, so I wasn't here anything. But thank you so much. I'm really appreciating Muhindi, and I'm here today. It's my first time being here. Actually, Githinji just invited me to come and have a look at what we normally do and the session that we normally have sometimes. So I'm so passionate about it, and I'm happy that I'm here today to have this conversation with you. Actually, Githinji is my classmate from Moi University. We are with him in Moi, in School of Engineering. And I don't have much to say, only that, and thank you so much for this opportunity anyway, guys. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses, for accepting the invitation and also sticking around. So I'm grateful for that. Back to you, Chris. I don't know if you are still there, Chris, or you've dropped. I understand you had the network issues. Okay, maybe in the meantime, I can take this opportunity to say thank you very much, Humphrey, for giving us your time and also really sharing a lot of in-depth material and also the experience that you've had. I believe this will really help the team and even the questions and all that. It will really go a step further into making this a project and also in general speaking, making IEEE volunteers and the leaders in general really appreciate the value of leadership and also the value of volunteering. So on behalf of IEEE Young Professionals and IEEE Kenya section in general, I'm really grateful, even for those ones who took their time. I saw we have people from across the border. We really do appreciate you coming in to listen to this. It's really an honor. Yeah, that's all from me. We can leave at your own pleasure. If still Chris has an issue, that will be it. Yes, thank you very much. Back to you, Humphrey and Chris.
Thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening, people.
Thanks a lot also, and have a great one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
So, so for those ones who are asking about the presentation, I believe, I don't know, maybe Humphrey can comment about sharing the presentation, but I'm sure the recording will be uploaded on the IEEE Moi University YouTube channel, which might also be copied to the Young Professional channel. So no worries about that. You'll definitely get that. Humphrey, can make a comment about the presentation?
Sure, I can refine it and then I'll send it to Chris and he can send it to the participants. I believe those who registered, the emails were captured, so you can be able to share with them. And if not, then you can probably share your email address with the host and he can forward it to you probably by the end of the week.
Perfect. I hope Abiodun, that is okay with you.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, and now that I can see people are still here, maybe you can make a comment about the presentation, the session, and how do you think we can maybe collaborate? I don't know which country you're from. I don't want to guess and say Nigeria. I don't want to do that. Maybe you can tell us.
You're perfectly correct, from Nigeria.
Thank you.
It was a really, really brilliant presentation. And I think our young ones, especially those in university and secondary school, need to start hearing things like this really early, that they need to make those sacrifices and start volunteering. I use myself as an example. I wasn't so fortunate. I didn't hear it until late, opportunities to volunteer. But, you know, I keep telling myself, I wish I heard it maybe 5, 7 years earlier than I did. It would have been a whole lot different for me as well. So it's a brilliant one. It's definitely one that I will also encourage the local chapter to do more. Advise the student chapters to, I mean, push more for volunteering, just like Humphrey mentioned when he was explaining the part about somebody just says, "Oh, can you sing?" You sing, and the next thing is, "Oh, okay, since he sang the other day, maybe we should ask him if he can read a poem." And I had something similar in university where I did one thing and then I did the next thing, and the next thing I just saw was every time they needed somebody to do something, I was the first person they asked. It's only when I turned it down that they now went elsewhere to look for somebody else. So, and that was how those kind of opportunities just kept coming, even though it was not the professional volunteering, but it was still something. It was because it had to do with the community. So this is my own take. It was a brilliant presentation, and kudos to Austin. Humphrey, sorry.
Thank you very much, Abiodun, for that great feedback, and we really appreciate your time and also staying in the call for over 1 hour. So it's really great for us, and we are hoping that you'll also be joining our next call, our next webinar, sorry, where we'll be talking about financial management, budgeting, accounting, and all that. That is next week. Yeah.
Be a pleasure too.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, I can see Chris as is not really coming back. Okay. There's another question here from Cliff. Maybe Humphrey, you can respond to that. But anyone, if you feel you are fine, you can just drop. I think the presentation, the questions are over. They're just now doing A or B. Humphrey?
Okay, I can take that. Cliff asks, how can one deal with the pressure that comes with leadership? As a leader, you are always in the spotlight, and sometimes you feel the weight of it. This burden can sometimes make you push your team too much and not appreciate their efforts much. So how do you deal with this? Yes, this is something that is actually true, and especially in volunteer work, because you're not paid, then you always feel that pressure, like, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to push myself so much when I'm not getting any money from this? But what I can say is that one, a leader is only as good as his team. So if you need to be able to handle that pressure, and your team will see, the team also knows that you're under pressure. Don't think that they don't know, because if it's a deliverable that an item that has delayed in terms of delivery, they will come and know that that has been there. But how you cope with it rubs off onto the team. So if you panic, they will also panic. If you are calm and exude confidence and an air of authority, like everything will be fine, then they will definitely feel that, and they'll also get that confidence from you. So in terms of pressure, one, you need to understand first where the pressure is coming from. What is causing that? Is it a deliverable that is delayed? Is it something that cannot be done and you need to do it? Is it an error that has been caused by one of the team members or by yourself that is causing this pressure? So it's always good to at least first identify what is the cause of this. Then once you have identified, always take time, not be in a rush. Take time to try and see how can you sort this out. If it's something that does not give you the comfort of having time, it may be a fault that needs to be sorted out immediately. At least take, even if it's a minute or two, to just reflect on it and try and see how can we go about what was the cause, how can we address the cause of this, because addressing the cause will always help to prevent it from happening again, and also give you that confidence, or that give the team that confidence that this issue is not something that is going to recur. Sometimes you may not be able to resolve it immediately, but you may look for a temporary measure to at least calm the situation down. So you need to always be that flexible and communicate with your team. Sometimes you may not have the idea of how to go about it, but a team member might have an idea, which if you brainstorm together, you can actually come up with a solution that will resolve that situation that is causing that pressure. So pressure is something that is normally there. It's expected as a leader. How you deal with it determines how the team reacts next time when they encounter a similar situation. If you're calm and you have that sense of authority, your team will always know that if we are calm, we can resolve this. But if you go about it in a way that shows that you're panicked, then they'll also panic next time they encounter a problem or even during this problem. And then you may not be able to have a team under control. So it's all about you, your confidence, and how you show it to the people. That's my take on that. Then the other thing I saw, the last comment you made was that this burden can make you push your team too much. One is do not push them too much. Pushing people is good, it's okay, it's allowed, but do not push them too much if they are not able to. If it's something they're able to do, then well and good. But if it's something that you know they're not able to deliver and you push them, you might actually push them out of that volunteer group or community that you have. So you always have to strike that balance of what do I need to do? Do they have the resources? Do they have that knowledge to actually do what is expected of them to relieve that pressure? If not, how can we go about it together? You can facilitate them. For example, if they don't have money to maybe travel to a certain place to go and resolve a situation, you can facilitate them getting that transport or the money to go there and then go sort out the situation. Otherwise, if you just tell them go sort out the situation at point X and they can't get there, you're just pushing them. That's now pushing them too much, and you're not facilitating them, enabling them to actually resolve that particular situation. And then the other bit is also in terms of communication. Sometimes pressure can come because you did not communicate something in advance. Like there's a problem that is happening, and the stakeholders, the sponsors needed to have known about it so that they can facilitate you, but you kept quiet. And now they come and find out at the last minute and you can't handle it. It's already, the situation is already bad. So you just need to look at how you can improve on that and try and handle it in a way that one, some of the things do not, if it's something that doesn't need to be exposed to the team, then don't expose them to it. If it's something that involves them, then let them know about it so that you can handle it as a team. But if it's a management and administrative team, administrative problem that requires to be sorted out at that level, then do not push it down to them. That way, it shows, it also brings about that sense of you are in control and you are capable of handling things on your own. Thank you. Gidinji, back to you.
I think I'm fine, Humphrey, from my end. I do believe, I think the session has really been great because you can see we still have people here and questions are still coming. Maybe at some point we may really need to drop these. In the next probably 2 minutes, Humphrey, I can see you are the host. Maybe you can just end the minute, the call if we don't have any. But I'm really glad for that because I think at some point what we really miss is we usually tell the best stories. Sorry about that noise. We usually tell about the best stories of how people win, how people do great stuff, what actually leadership is all about. But we actually miss to tell people that reading it in theory or in presentation can be very fancy, but actually doing it in practice can really be hectic, and that's where now the pressure comes in. Maybe at some point also, in addition to what Humphrey you've just shared about the pressure, it's all, I can say it's all about the expectation. So at some point, the more expectations you have, the more pressure you will tend to experience. But maybe if the expectations are kind of less, or maybe ideal to each individual, it may not really be pressure, because you don't really expect much from everyone, and you expect them to deliver exactly what is there for them to deliver. That's what I can add on that. But again, it's a good practice. It's something really good to do. But starting, of course, there is pressure. Any one leader will tell you, truth be told, there is nothing like I just woke up and then I was this fancy guy who could do this, who could talk. I remember Humphrey saying about him forgetting the one whole paragraph. It's very true. They will happen. Today you will go, you will even sweat, you will start making funny voices, but by the end of the day, you learn, and then the next time, at least you can now hold your breath, control your internal pressures and all that, and maybe end up even doing a 2-hour or even a 3-hour presentation. Yes, you are panicking it from the inside, but you are controlling it to the point that even the audience can really feel the courage and the boldness in your voice, and even the presentation that you are making. So maybe just to wind it up, it's all about practice, 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 and you'll never make a perfect move the first time. And if you make it, then well and good. But in most cases, especially for the students, you need to practice this. And I believe that is what Humphrey was saying. IEEE gives you actually that platform to practice. And no one can really judge you. You can do those emails, you mess today, tomorrow, you do a presentation, you mess up. But again, with great leaders and great feedback and great positive criticism, or rather constructive criticism, you learn, and next time you do it better. And I'm glad at least I've grown through that, and I've seen other people grow through that. Thank you, Humphrey, for that. Maybe from at this point, maybe Humphrey, you can just end the call so that we can leave, because I can see if we stay here, we may stay until sometimes later.
Yeah, good people don't like good things to end.
Yeah.